I don't know the bloody truth. I'm lost.
In a black cabinet, unmarked, it had a rambling series of numbers and letters that moved around the screen.
"23 Unexplained Video Game Mysteries, 7 Levels." I've compiled some of video game history's most disturbing and unexplained mysteries. We'll start with eerie unknowns and slowly shift into some more disturbing and borderline sinister anomalies ever coded into existence. Let's start at the tip of the iceberg. Level 1. GTA San Andreas Bigfoot. Almost as soon as GTA San Andreas was released in 2004, players began claiming that they found something strange and unsettling within the game. Players exploring the foggy, isolated forests of Back O' Beyond and Flint County began reporting sightings of a tall, dark figure lurking between the trees. These eerie forest areas, with their sinister trees and rising fog, created the perfect atmosphere for something sinister to hide. And for some, that meant it just had to be Bigfoot. Now, let's be clear, 2004 games were not that advanced, which meant that the woods were a lot more terrifying than they would be today. We're talking in complete silence, no wildlife, low-resolution textures, shrouded in fog. Obviously, players walking alone through these areas at night would feel watched. But the rumors went way beyond that, claiming to see a large black figure that would vanish when approached. In 2004, Rob Silver reported seeing a large, tall, dark figure while driving through Back O' Beyond. Caleb Cremel from Michigan described a similar encounter. "Behind some plants, I clearly saw a giant black figure." By 2005, as YouTube was starting to take off, the internet became flooded with videos and screenshots, most of them fake. But the myth gained traction when Terry Donovan, Rockstar co-founder, stated in a 2005 interview that there is no Bigfoot, just like in real life. But he added, there is something in the woods. Naturally, players spent hours searching these forests looking for it. They developed tactics for hunting myths, like using thermal goggles to see through fog, rotating the camera to force the game to spawn entities, even using NPCs as bait and checking if they died while unattended, which is dark as hell, but not a bad idea. Data miners eventually tore the game code apart line by line, searching for any evidence, but nothing conclusive was ever found in the original game files. However, in 2025, Obey Vermeij, Rockstar North's former technical director, finally revealed that Bigfoot was planned but cut due to time constraints. So I guess that's something. The White Hand Sprite, Pokemon Red and Blue. Pokemon has more rumors, urban legends, theories, and mysteries than maybe any other gaming franchise in existence, but the White Hand Sprite is a pretty strong one. The story begins in Lavender Town, the haunted area in Pokemon Red and Blue known for its eerie music and ghost-filled Pokemon Tower. Players exploring the game's code allegedly discovered something Nintendo never intended them to find, an unused sprite called whitehand.gif. This creepy-looking sprite depicts a decaying human hand with bones, tendons, and sinew rendered in a shocking amount of detail for an 8-bit game. The animation shows the hand clenching into a fist before lunging forward in an attack motion. The second attack animation, called Brutal, has missing frames. The hand opens wide, then suddenly jumps to being closed again. According to those who first discovered it, the sprite was programmed to appear on the 3rd floor of Pokemon Tower but was removed before the game's final release. The animation is divided into 4 sequences: an introduction, a Pokemon cry, an idle animation, and 2 attacks labeled Fists and Brutal. Nobody knows why this got cut, but of course the rumors claim that viewing the full animation sequence was found to cause headaches, nausea, and in extreme cases, hemorrhaging in the brain and lungs. This led to warnings that the only safe way to view the sprite was by examining individual frames separately through ROM inspection. But another rumor claimed that White Hand was intended to be a Pokemon in the party of another cut character called Buried Alive, a zombified human who allegedly served as a final boss in Lavender Town. The story goes that defeating this boss would cause the game to freeze, while losing would trigger a game over screen where Buried Alive consumed the player character. Yeah, pretty dark for a Pokemon game. The Herobrine Legend, Minecraft. Herobrine emerged in the Minecraft community in 2010 and quickly became maybe the game's most notorious urban legend. He appears as a ghostly doppelganger of Steve, our default player character, but with haunting white eyes totally devoid of pupils. This bizarre entity allegedly stalks players in single-player worlds, creating inexplicably strange phenomena that defy the game's normal generation patterns. The legend began with an anonymous post on 4chan where a player claimed to spot a strange figure in the fog while playing Minecraft's alpha version. After approaching what they initially thought was the cow, they instead encountered this player-like figure with blank white eyes who vanished into the mist, never to be seen again. After the sighting, they started to find unnatural structures they hadn't built. Perfect sand pyramids in oceans, trees stripped of leaves, and mysterious 2x2 tunnels bored through solid rock. They had done none of it. When the player tried discussing these events online, their posts were mysteriously deleted. They reportedly received a message from someone named Herobrine containing just one word: stop. Immediately, the community started to spread a new, sinister rumor that Herobrine was supposedly the dead brother of Notch, Minecraft's creator. Notch obviously repeatedly denied that claim. But then, streamers had some Herobrine encounters of their own on their live streams.
I need to. Oh my god, 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 what is going on?
In one stream, viewers watched as the streamer encountered Herobrine while building his house. After fleeing in terror, he fell into lava while Herobrine silently observed. Later, viewers were redirected to a disturbing webpage featuring Steve with realistic moving eyes. It was all very strange, but it worked. Players worldwide began reporting their own sightings, claiming to have seen mysterious structures appearing overnight, items vanishing from chests, and glimpses of a white-eyed figure watching from a distance. Some claimed new worlds would mysteriously appear on their device with names like Herobrine in unusual fonts. Despite Mojang repeatedly confirming Herobrine doesn't exist in any official version of Minecraft, the legend inspired countless mods allowing players to summon various incarnations of Herobrine that bring chaos to Minecraft worlds, whether you want them to or not. Level 2. Homeless Lady in Life is Strange. In the quiet coastal town of Arcadia Bay, behind the Two Whales Diner, sits the unnamed homeless woman. Life is Strange players have gotten into some endless speculation about this seemingly minor character and what the heck it all means. The homeless woman appears in episodes 2 and 3, allowing our protagonist, Max Caulfield, to engage in brief but cryptic conversations. But what makes these interactions unsettling is the woman's inexplicable knowledge. She sees everything in town because, as she explains, people pretend not to see me, so I see everybody and everything. This strangely omniscient quality immediately signals something supernatural at work. When questioned about her time in Arcadia, she responds with the unsettling line, 1,000 years. Now, sure, we could interpret this as sarcasm, but it's delivered so matter-of-factly that it suggests she exists outside normal time. Even more disturbing, when Max confides in her about her apocalyptic visions of a tornado destroying the town, the woman shows no surprise whatsoever, simply responding that bad mojo is in the air. It's like she expects it. But it gets weirder. Sharp-eyed players noticed a box of cereal beside the homeless woman, the exact same brand Max had mentioned she'd been eating since childhood. Her facial features, particularly a distinctive gap in her lips, shows her teeth mirror Max's own appearance. Naturally, people came to the conclusion that this woman is actually Max herself, trapped in time and aged, possibly representing a dark future where Max's time manipulation powers backfired catastrophically. Even the woman's knowledge of Rachel Amber, the missing girl central to the game's plot, is too strange to feel comfortable. She recalls seeing Rachel walking alone, too damn young and pretty to look so worried. hinting that she had something to do with what happened, or at least that she knew more than she would say. Mr. Blue Eyes in Cyberpunk 2077. In all of Cyberpunk 2077, there's no character more bizarre and inexplicable than Mr. Blue Eyes. Obviously, his most distinguishing feature, those perpetually glowing blue eyes, immediately tells us that something is very wrong with this guy. The fact that he is just a shadowy figure who operates from the margins of the game's narrative makes it even more unsettling. Now, many players complete Cyberpunk 2077 without ever encountering Mr. Blue Eyes directly. He watches silently from balconies and distant locations, most notably during the Dream On mission. But this surveillance isn't coincidental. Mr. Blue Eyes appears to be connected to a massive conspiracy involving mind control and political manipulation throughout Night City. But his web extends throughout the game in the form of some unexpected characters. Jefferson Peralez, a mayoral candidate, is subjected to memory alterations and mind control through advanced technology that beams data to surveillance vans. Okay, creepy. Gary the Prophet, a seemingly deranged street preacher warning about beings with cold blue eyes from Alpha Centauri, wears the same distinctive ring as Mr. Blue Eyes and Jefferson. Well, weird coincidence, I guess. But when players investigate Gary's conspiracy theories, he mysteriously disappears, allegedly abducted by men with glowing blue eyes, just like Mr. Blue Eyes. Game files label Mr. Blue Eyes' hair mesh as Morgan Blackhand, suggesting a connection to this legendary figure from cyberpunk lore who disappeared after 2023. Others theorize he represents a rogue AI controlling a human body, explaining the unnatural eye glow, which is similar to dolls in the game world. In one of the game endings, Mr. Blue Eyes offers V a space station heist, suggesting he has some kind of extraterrestrial interests, which makes sense. The technology demonstrated in these mind-altering operations suggests capabilities far beyond conventional Night City tech. Aliens would be the only explanation. But his organization shows ruthless efficiency. Operatives failing their mission face remote termination rather than risk capture. The sheer depth and extent of his surveillance network imply he's been watching V's journey from the beginning. We just didn't notice. And if you want to keep watching our videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. Level 3. The Mysterious Stranger, Fallout. There's a strange, unique thing going on in Fallout. One moment you're facing certain death in the wasteland, the next a trench-coated figure materializes beside you, 44 Magnum in hand. A distinctive musical sting plays. He fires a single lethal shot, your enemy falls, then he vanishes without a word, never to be explained. This phenomenon has occurred across the entire Fallout timeline, spanning over 120 years and multiple locations from Shady Sands to the Commonwealth. In Fallout's official game guide, he's described as an odd eldritch entity and a guardian angel. Notice the choice of words, not human. Nick Valentine, the synth detective from Fallout 4, has been investigating this figure for years. His case files note that something is strange. Perp appears and disappears suddenly, suggesting preternatural infiltration abilities or access to advanced cloaking tech. Valentine seems genuinely disturbed each time the stranger appears during combat, saying things like, "He was just here, you saw him, right?" No matter what he does, he can't get the guy. In New Vegas, we learn the stranger fathered a child. The lonesome drifter reveals his father was a mysterious feller, always traveling, who left him only a guitar and a unique revolver called the Mysterious Magnum. So, this minor detail places the stranger in Montana around 2253, which proves he's not just legend, he's real. But it does leave open a key question. How can one entity appear unchanged across centuries? Players have tried to answer it for years. Is he a ghoul with minimal scarring? Multiple men operating under the same identity? A supernatural force manifesting as a man in a fedora? Some connect him to Lovecraftian elements woven throughout Fallout's universe. Others suggest he's an otherworldly entity like Nyarlathotep, appearing to influence outcomes across time and space. But whatever he is, he always seems to be there at exactly the right moment, with absolutely no explanation. Daisy's third eye in Super Smash Bros. Melee. In 2001, Super Smash Bros. Melee introduced collectible trophies to the franchise, letting players examine detailed 3D models of these beloved Nintendo characters. But one trophy hides something unsettling when viewed from the right angle. Princess Daisy, the ruler of Sarasaland, harbors a secret, and it's strange. A fully textured third eye on the back of her head. The glitch occurs only in the original NTSC version of the game. By manipulating the trophy viewer's camera, players can position it to clip through Daisy's hair, revealing an eye staring back at them. What makes this particularly disturbing isn't just the eye itself, but what it revealed about Daisy's model. When hackers examined the game files and removed Daisy's hair texture completely, they discovered something far more nightmarish than an eye in the back of her head. It turns out that her entire head wasn't properly modeled, but instead textured with multiple eyeballs. At least 10 eyes cover her skull, with possibly more extending down her body. I honestly feel weird just looking at it. The developers at Nintendo didn't bother creating separate eye models for Daisy. They just wrapped her head in an eye texture, obviously assuming players would never see beneath her hair, because why the heck would they? When the glitch was discovered, Nintendo's fix in later versions was minimal. They just erased the visible eye texture while leaving the rest of the eyeball mapping intact. So the problem wasn't really fixed. Some players have since suggested that this whole thing makes Daisy an ancient one, old enough to see both the beginning and end of all existence. Others imagine the eye is actually canon, allowing Daisy to see behind herself in all of her game appearances. Level 4. Ben Drowned, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. In September 2010, a college student named Jadusable posted on 4chan about a strange Majora's Mask cartridge he'd bought at a yard sale. The cartridge had no label, just Majora scrawled in black marker. When he started the game, he found a save file already present, simply labeled Ben. At first, Jadusable created his own save file named Link and played normally. But soon, the game began behaving strangely. NPCs occasionally called him Ben instead of Link. When Jadusable deleted the Ben save file, things took a more sinister turn. The game suddenly transported him to a corrupted version of Clocktown. Textures disappeared, NPCs vanished, and the song of healing played in reverse, punctuated by the happy mask salesman's laughter growing progressively louder. Every exit from Clocktown inexplicably led back into the town itself. He could not escape. Jadusable documented these anomalies through YouTube videos showing Link encountering the Elegy of Emptiness statue, a disturbing Link clone that would mysteriously appear and follow him throughout the game. Messages started appearing. You shouldn't have done that. And you've met with a terrible fate, haven't you? The cartridge was becoming more and more corrupted the more he played. Backward music, distorted character models, and impossible game scenarios multiplied. According to his stories, the game was seemingly conscious, aware of Jadusable himself, not just his character. In one chilling video, the happy mask salesman appeared to look directly at the player, breaking the fourth wall entirely. None of it seemed to be possible. Eventually, this creepypasta evolved into an elaborate alternate reality game. Jadusable claimed Ben had escaped the cartridge and invaded his computer, then disappeared entirely. Players discovered websites about a cult called the Moon Children, with connections to a boy who drowned in 2002, presumably Ben himself. The story expanded across multiple platforms as participants tried solving the mystery. It all led to the realization that Ben wasn't simply a ghost, he was something far more malevolent trapped in digital form. And that raises a lot more questions than answers. Karazhan Crypt, World of Warcraft. Located in the cemetery called Morgan's Plot behind the main Karazhan Castle in World of Warcraft's Deadwind Pass lies the Karazhan Crypt, a sealed underground area that was never meant to be accessible through normal gameplay. That didn't stop determined players from finding ways in. In the early days, adventurous players discovered multiple methods to breach the sealed gate. Walking through as a ghost, blinking through as a mage, or getting feared or polymorphed through the entrance during duels. It just required a bit of creativity. Blizzard repeatedly attempted to block access, but players always found new ways to enter this forbidden zone. If they did manage to get inside, what they found was far more disturbing than typical World of Warcraft content. The crypts contain winding catacomb passages marked with deep, dragging claw marks across the stone floors. As explorers ventured deeper, they encountered gated tombs where eerie heartbeats could be heard in complete silence. It was unsettlingly sinister, and it only got worse. The deeper sections revealed increasingly macabre scenes. Massive piles of seemingly human bones littered chambers that led to the crypt's most infamous location, the upside-down Sinner's Room. This flooded chamber contains dozens of human corpses hanging upside down from chains suspended in water, their bodies eternally imprisoned. From certain angles, players could see that most of the pool was populated by these inverted corpses of people someone had deemed sinners. No official explanation exists for this disturbing area. Theories range wildly, with some believing it represents Medivh's dark half and others connecting it to an ancient Eridar sorceress who was Azeroth's first necrolite. What really makes it so strange is that the developers created this elaborate, detailed area with all of these grim, dark elements, only to seal it away without explanation. The crypt remained officially inaccessible for years until January 2025, when Blizzard finally incorporated it as an official dungeon in WoW Classic Season of Discovery Phase 7. Now anybody can delve inside and find the treasure trove of bodies. Just don't expect an explanation for it. Static Torture Station, Far Cry 5. There's something strange going on in Far Cry 5's fictional Hope County, and it doesn't sound good. When the player drives through certain remote areas of Jacob Seed's region, they occasionally encounter a strange radio broadcast that doesn't appear on any official list of in-game stations. The encounter begins innocently enough. Players driving vehicles with radios might suddenly notice their usual choice of gospel hymns or classic rock replaced by harsh static. But this isn't ordinary interference. It's localized to extremely specific areas, sometimes just 18 meters wide. Drive beyond these invisible boundaries and the static vanishes completely, replaced by dead air or normal radio programming. But there's something else beneath the white noise. Players who stop to listen report hearing faint, distressed human voices. Some have described hearing a pained voice moaning words like someone and help through the crackling static. Others report catching the word emergency accompanied by what sounds like distant gunfire. The transmission repeats on a roughly 20-second loop, just long enough to recognize patterns, but too distorted to decipher completely. There's no one place to find this. Multiple players have documented encountering these static zones in various locations, like near the McKinley Dam, around the Whitetail Park Ranger Station, close to Langford Lake, and several other seemingly unrelated areas. When players try to return to these spots, the broadcast often disappears entirely, as though it never happened. Attempts to triangulate the source have proven futile. Some players spent hours methodically mapping the boundaries of these broadcast zones, hoping to pinpoint an origin point. Their investigations led nowhere. There simply is no explanation for anything. No quests lead there, just disembodied voices calling out in what sounds unmistakably like torment. The Strange Man, Red Dead Redemption 2. Hidden away in the murky swamps of Red Dead Redemption 2's Bale Edge, Lemoyne, lies an abandoned shack. Inside, the cabin walls are covered with cryptic writings and strange symbols that seem to predict events happening throughout the game world. And right in the middle, an easel with an unfinished portrait that defies explanation. The portrait begins as a black silhouette, but with each visit, the image gradually fills in. First, a top hat appears, then the outline of a suit, and finally, facial features emerge. By the fourth visit, the painting completes itself without any apparent artist. When players look into the nearby mirror, they see the strange man standing behind them, only to turn around and find nobody there. It's unexpectedly creepy, but he's not only found in his cabin. In Herbert Moon's store in Armadillo, John Marston recognizes a small portrait of the man but can't place where he's seen him before. Moon offers no explanation, yet the connection between the shopkeeper and the strange man implies some kind of sinister dark pact that might explain why Moon remains totally untouched by the cholera ravaging Armadillo. In fact, the strange man may be something much more all-seeing. He seems to know details about characters' lives they've long forgotten. He appears to track Dutch's gang members who seek redemption, watching Arthur Morgan and John Marston through their journeys. The cabin's writings reference locations and events with impossible foreknowledge. So, who is this guy? Some people believe he's death itself, collecting souls at their moral crossroads. Others see him as the devil, making deals and testing morality. One theory even identifies him as Cain from the Bible, cursed to walk the earth eternally after committing the first murder. Which might explain why John's bullets couldn't harm him in their first game encounter. The strange man's cabin is even labeled serial killer in the game's photo mode, so clearly he has a hidden secret, and few survive long enough to know it. The Body and the VersaLife Vault, Deus Ex Mankind Divided. During a seemingly routine Palisade bank heist in Deus Ex Mankind Divided, players can make a pretty horrifying discovery inside the VersaLife Vault. Behind a small window in one of the storage boxes, a face can be seen. Adam Jensen's face. The protagonist that we, the player, are currently controlling is somehow also lying dead inside a cryogenic chamber. Try to make sense of that one. When they first discovered it, players quickly found ways to get a better look. Throwing EMPs or stun grenades at the box illuminated the contents more clearly, and yep, what they saw was horrific. An incomplete Adam Jensen torso with no arms or lower body, definitely sporting Jensen's facial features. Hard not to be freaked out by the implications of that. Either this is the real Adam Jensen, possibly dead after the events at Panchaea, and players had been controlling a clone throughout the game, or this is a failed clone experiment using the real Jensen's DNA. But either way, it all ties directly to one of Mankind Divided's dangling plot threads. How did Jensen survive the destruction of Panchaea? The implied answer? He didn't. What players had been controlling might be a Flash clone brought to consciousness, implanted with Jensen's memories and secretly fitted with experimental augmentations not present in Human Revolution. Pretty damn messed up if you ask me. Fan theories have also found some additional evidence in the form of Jensen's fuzzy memories of his recovery, Seraph's confusion about unrecognized augmentations despite having traceable serial numbers, the mysterious Watcher monitoring Jensen, and even the game's loading screen showing two Adam faces staring at each other. But despite these breadcrumbs, the game never explains the body. The planned sequel that might have resolved this mystery was ultimately canceled, leaving players permanently wondering if they had been playing as the real Adam Jensen or as an Illuminati puppet designed to replace him. So I guess the question is, how disturbing is it to discover you're playing as someone who might not even be the person they believe they are? I think I confused myself there. Level 5. The Playground Child Mystery, Thief Simulator 2. In Thief Simulator 2, players who venture behind house number 107 discover an ordinary-looking playground that transforms into something else entirely when darkness falls. Players first approach it like any other location in the game, searching for valuables, checking for security systems, but something changes when they get closer. The game's ambient sounds fade away. Creepy music begins to play. Seriously creepy, as in music that doesn't belong in this game about petty theft and breaking into houses. As you move toward the playground equipment, the music intensifies. And that's when you see it. A small figure slumped forward on a rocking horse. A child, or what appears to be one, motionless under the moonlight. The body doesn't move, it doesn't respond to your presence. It just sits there, head bowed, while that eerie melody plays. What makes this discovery so disturbing is how disconnected it feels from everything else in the game. There's no mission related to it, no NPC ever mentions it, your character has no dialogue option to acknowledge what they've seen. The game continues as if nothing happened. So, what did you just encounter? Players initially believe it's a real dead child, only to approach closer and realize it's actually a doll made to look like a dead child. Which honestly doesn't make the scene any less unsettling. If anything, the deliberate placement of a childlike doll in this isolated nighttime setting just makes it creepier. The developers have never officially acknowledged this Easter egg. No patch notes mention it, no official guide references it. If you encounter it, you pretty much just have to make up your own mind about what's going on. Disturbing billboard message in California Speed. In 2014, 15 years after its release, players discovered something profoundly disturbing in California Speed, a seemingly innocent Nintendo 64 racing game from 1999. Hidden in plain sight, yet nearly impossible to see during normal gameplay, was a billboard with a message that sent chills through the gaming community. The billboard, located in the Mojave Desert level, could only be found by deliberately slowing down your vehicle and drifting along the edge of the track until it came into view. What players discovered was text that read, "Sometimes God takes mommies and puppies away, and sometimes, just sometimes, I do." The discovery first appeared on Reddit's Creepy Gaming sub, sparking immediate debate about the whole thing. Some players dismissed it as a hoax, while others claimed it existed only in pirated versions of the game. These theories were quickly debunked when multiple gamers and eventually YouTubers like the Easter Egg Hunter confirmed its existence. We have to remember that this dark message is still within the game's bright, colorful aesthetic, which was blatantly designed specifically for children. California Speed was a vibrant, child-friendly racer developed by Midway Games, first as an arcade title in 1998 before being ported to the N64. It featured cartoonish vehicles racing through recognizable California landmarks. That's hardly the place you'd expect to find implied threats about taking away mothers and pets. It's a total mystery how this macabre message slipped through quality control into a widely released commercial product. The billboard was impossible to see during normal gameplay. Sure, it's positioned where players would speed past without a second glance. The game received mediocre reviews and was quickly forgotten, so it makes sense why it was never noticed. But how it got through to actually be released is still a mystery. 2 years after the discovery, a programmer finally explained that the text was meant as a placeholder, something so obviously inappropriate that it would never be confused for finalized content. But due to time constraints and the billboard's hidden nature, no one caught it during testing. So eventually, the chilling message shipped to thousands of homes in a game marketed to children. Faceless Woman in The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. During The Witcher 3's Tower of Mice quest, a player named Lucid Avidity encountered something that it seems they weren't supposed to find. While exploring the already unsettling Fyke Isle Tower, a place infamous among players for its oppressive atmosphere and plague-ridden history, they noticed something odd in their peripheral vision. A figure standing motionless behind Geralt, silent, watching. The quest itself revolves around investigating a curse on the tower using a magic lamp to see specters of the past, particularly the tragic story of Annabelle, who died horribly during a peasant uprising. But this was different. This figure wasn't part of any scripted ghost encounter. When Lucid Avidity turned to look directly at where the figure stood, it vanished, completely gone. This happened repeatedly through their exploration of the tower. Using the next-gen update's photo mode, they finally captured clear evidence of what they were seeing. The image revealed a tall, impossibly thin woman with long, dark hair hanging limply around what should have been her face. Except there was no face, just a blank, featureless void where eyes, nose, and mouth should exist. Unlike other ghosts in the game that interact with Geralt or serve narrative purposes, this entity simply watches. When approached, it disappears as though it was never there, and there's no story explanation for it. Even as players discovered other Easter eggs and secrets years after release, this faceless watcher remains unexplained. Is she an intentional Easter egg, a glitch, or something programmers purposely left unexplained to haunt players who venture into the tower's darkest corners? That's really for you to decide. Sonic.exe. In 2011, a user named JC the Hyena published a horror story on the Creepypasta wiki about a haunted Sonic game. The premise was simple. A character receives a mysterious CD labeled Sonic.exe from a friend along with a warning note, then ignores the warning and plays it anyway. What begins as a familiar Sonic game quickly descends into nightmare territory. The iconic blue hedgehog appears with dead black eyes dripping with blood and featuring glowing red pupils. His usually cheerful smile transforms into something sinister and predatory. The game forces players to watch as this corrupted Sonic hunts down and brutally murders beloved characters like Tails and Knuckles in increasingly disturbing ways. Then comes the scariest moment of all: the game breaks the fourth wall. Sonic directly addresses the player with the phrase, "I am God," suggesting he's aware of the real person behind the screen. The story ends with the protagonist finding a bloodied Sonic plushie on their bed, implying the digital monster has somehow crossed into reality. Despite being criticized for amateurish writing and eventually removed from the Creepypasta wiki entirely, Sonic.exe struck a chord with fans. In 2012, developer Mist Crimson created an actual playable version that faithfully recreated the most disturbing elements from the story. This game featured distorted music, glitched graphics, and the unsettling image of Sonic's bloody-eyed stare that actually became iconic in horror gaming circles. And the game was a massive hit. YouTubers recorded themselves playing it, fan artists created disturbing artwork, and even more game versions appeared. Sonic.exe spawned an entire subgenre of .exe horror games where beloved characters from other franchises were similarly corrupted. What made Sonic.exe truly disturbing was how it perverted something innocent and nostalgic. Seeing a childhood icon transformed into a sadistic, omnipotent demon, it hits at something fundamental in our psyches. Our childhood is corrupted as we play through. Level 6. The Huddle. Inside. In Playdead's Inside, players control a nameless boy through an oppressive dystopian world. After navigating deadly obstacles, mind-controlled humans, and pursuing guards with dogs, the boy reaches a restricted scientific facility where the game takes its most horrific turn. Deep within the facility, players discover an enormous, fleshy mass known as the Huddle, a writhing amalgamation of countless human bodies fused together. Arms, legs, and torsos blend into one another, creating a pulsating entity that defies all of our natural anatomy. The boy approaches this monstrosity and, in a sudden shocking moment, is physically absorbed into it. The player then loses control of the boy completely. Instead, you now control this grotesque mass of flesh. The Huddle moves with disturbing, unnatural mechanics, just dozens of limbs flailing as it rolls and tumbles through spaces. Its movements resemble something between crawling and tumbling, with arms extending outward to grab surfaces and pull itself forward. The physics of this abomination are weirdly, unsettlingly realistic. The internal structures of bones shift and adjust while its exterior ripples with each movement. It's just weird. And then it just crashes through glass barriers, smashes equipment, and destroys everything in its path with unstoppable momentum. Scientists who previously hunted the boy now flee in terror or watch in silent horror as the huddle breaks free from containment. The game never explains the huddle's origin. Was it an experiment gone wrong? A punishment? A weapon? Players never learn. More disturbing is the implication that reaching the huddle might have been the boy's goal all along. That perhaps the huddle was controlling him throughout the journey, using him to orchestrate its escape. After breaking free from the facility, the huddle rolls down a hillside and comes to rest at the edge of the sea. Reaching out with desperate arms toward the water, freedom tantalizingly close but ultimately unattainable. The game ends with this unsettling image, leaving players to contemplate the horror they've participated in without explanation or resolution. GTA San Andreas Mass Grave Body Bags. In the barren wastes of Bone County, hidden at the foot of a mesa in El Castillo de Diablo, lies one of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas' most disturbing discoveries. 6 body bags rest in a large round pit with an abandoned Bobcat truck parked nearby alongside a shovel. There's really no reason for it to be there. There's no mission, no acknowledgement from the game. It's just there to be found by curious players wandering the desert. Located northwest of the mysterious Area 69 military base and southwest of Verdant Meadows airfield, its strategic position between these landmarks fuels speculation. Some theorize the bodies are failed government experiments or trespassers who knew too much about Area 69's secrets. Others connect it to the criminal underworld. In the introduction, a prequel film included with special editions of San Andreas, Syndico family gangsters are shown digging graves in the desert. One character ominously states, "There's a lot of holes in the desert, and a lot of problems are buried in those holes." The abandoned truck at the scene suggests a hasty disposal, perhaps by killers who left evidence behind. But the fans have some more unique ideas. A more unusual theory links the 6 body bags to K-Rose radio host Mary Beth Maybell, who casually mentions having multiple husbands now 6 feet under. She broadcasts from Bone County and mentions driving a truck. Coincidences some players find too specific to ignore. This thing is so weird. It serves no function and advances no storyline. It exists solely as an unexplained monument to violence that players weren't meant to question. Just discover an empty desert with a lot of death. Waystation Room, Fallout 4. Walking along the train tracks between Oberlin Station and Vault 81, players stumble upon what appears to be an ordinary wooden shack. Nothing marks it as particularly special. There are no quest arrows pointing toward it, no radio signal calling for help. It's just another dilapidated structure in the Commonwealth wasteland. Push open the door, though, and the ordinary becomes extraordinary in the worst way possible. Blood spatters cover nearly every surface, staining the floor dark red. Even the walls look like someone threw buckets of the stuff at them. And it's not ancient dried blood. It still has that sickening wet look that Fallout 4's engine renders so effectively. In the center of the room stands a chair. Well, not just any chair. A chair with restraints for arms and legs. Tools lie scattered nearby. Pliers, knives, things you'd rather not examine too closely. The previous occupant didn't survive whatever happened here, as seen by the corpse slumped nearby. The Commonwealth is already a place of everyday violence. Throughout the game, we see raiders impaling their victims on spikes, super mutants hanging mesh bags of gore from ceilings, but those displays feel almost theatrical, like post-apocalyptic decoration. This waystation feels different somehow. partially because the game never gives you any context to what you've found. Why here in this nondescript building along a stretch of track? Was it raiders, gunners, some lone psychopath? The game never tells. You simply back away, close the door, and continue your journey, carrying the knowledge that in the wasteland, some stories remain untold. Trepang 2. Task Force soldiers hanging from a tree. Imagine the scene. You're moving through Trepang 2 in the seemingly secure confines of the Task Force 27 base. You're walking through the base, perhaps exploring boundaries you weren't meant to cross, when you glance upward. What you see freezes you in your tracks. Bodies of task force soldiers hanging from trees, suspended by thin lines that keep them permanently out of reach. The bodies hang perfectly still, faces obscured by tactical gear, weapons still strapped to their backs. These aren't simply decorations or random casualties, they're fully geared operatives from your own side dangling motionless against the sky. You can't reach them, you can't cut them down. The only way to affect them is with a bullet to the head, and when that headshot connects, the body drops unceremoniously to the ground, bringing the suspended soldier back to Earth, but they're not revived, they're still dead. Some players even report finding additional hanging soldiers in other locations throughout the game. Same position, same rules, headshots only, no explanation provided. So, the uniformity suggests deliberate placement. A message, perhaps, but from whom? In a game filled with supernatural elements, mutated creatures, and shadowy organizations, these simple bodies might be the most unsettling feature. Their placement seems intentional, almost ritualistic, yet no faction claims responsibility. Players move on eventually, continuing their mission against Horizon Corporation and other threats. But the image of those hanging soldiers suggests a lot more horror beyond the main storyline's scope. Level 7. Polybius Arcade Myth. In 1981, strange arcade cabinets appeared in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. They arrived without announcement or marketing, black monoliths bearing only the name Polybius, and allegedly produced by a company called Sinnesolution, a crude German construction meaning sense deletion. The machines drew unusual crowds as players became inexplicably addicted, forming lines that stretched outside arcade doors and igniting fights over who would play next. But something was wrong with Polybius. The gameplay reportedly featured psychedelic vector graphics, abstract puzzles, and shooter elements designed to induce a trance-like state. Players couldn't stop playing, despite experiencing disturbing symptoms. Some suffered seizures right at the cabinet. Others reported amnesia, insomnia that lasted for days, and night terrors when they finally did sleep. Children who played Polybius spoke of hallucinations that lingered long after they left the arcade. Some claimed to hear electronic voices whispering when no one was around. Players reported nausea, memory loss, and an overwhelming sense that something had changed inside their minds. But then, people started to notice that men in black suits regularly visited these cabinets. They didn't play the game. They simply opened the machines, collected data, observed the players, and left without speaking. To many, these had to be government agents potentially testing psychological warfare techniques on unwitting teenagers. Then came the vanishing. Approximately 1 month after they appeared, every Polybius machine disappeared overnight. Arcade owners found empty spaces where the cabinets had once stood. When questioned, many claimed they couldn't remember details about the game or denied its existence entirely. No photos of Polybius exist, no circuit boards or ROMs had ever surfaced, no company records for Sinnesolution can be found. The only evidence is fragmented player testimonies and vague recollections of something strange that happened in those Portland arcades during the early 1980s. So the game that came from nowhere, damaged minds, and collected data vanished without a trace. Fallout 3 predicting real-world events. Weeks after Fallout 3's 2008 release, whispers started to spread through gaming forums about a hidden broadcast system within the game's post-apocalyptic wasteland. Players claimed that Galaxy News Radio could transform into a number station under specific conditions. To achieve it, the player had to kill Three Dog, the radio host, skip the Galaxy News Radio quest, and destroy Raven Rock. Following these steps allegedly allowed players to hear Three Dog's voice actor reading sequences of numbers followed by Morse code transmissions. When decoded, these broadcasts supposedly contained eerie predictions of real-world events. Two messages gained particular notoriety. One referenced an accident in the Gulf, several dead, oil spill averted, seemingly predicting the 2010 Deepwater Horizon catastrophe months before it occurred. Another contained the phrase, "What are you talking about? You'll be missed." Gary Coleman's catchphrase followed by a farewell broadcast before the actor's May 2010 death. Players documented additional messages with dates attached. "The Queen has died today. The world mourns, as on days like these we are all Brits. March 19th, 2014. And, I can't believe Britney's actually won an Oscar. February 27th, 2023. Obviously, neither of those happened on those dates. But the most unsettling transmission spoke of the universe slowly unraveling and concluded with, "I'm not going to wait for death. I have a pistol in the attic." A community quickly formed to investigate these broadcasts. Forum moderators began systematically removing discussions about the number station. Threads disappeared, users were banned, and online conversations were silenced. This aggressive censorship only intensified players' belief that something truly significant had been discovered. Despite numerous attempts, no one could consistently reproduce these broadcasts. Bethesda officially debunked the phenomenon when questioned by Games Radar in 2010, yet players continued insisting they had heard the transmissions. So, what other messages remain hidden? The latest date mentioned in the supposed broadcast was July 6, 2027. A date still lying ahead, meaning we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Berserk's Death Curse. In the early 1980s, arcade games seemed to be all the craze, and in 1980 itself, an arcade game called Berserk became the latest target of a chilling urban legend. Berserk wasn't just another video game, it was one of the first to use speech synthesis, eerily shouting phrases like, "The humanoid must not escape," and "Kill the intruder," as players navigated mazes filled with killer robots. The game's antagonist, Evil Otto, was a bouncing smiley face that relentlessly pursued players and couldn't be killed. But the real fear surrounding Berserk began with the players themselves. The legend starts with Jeff Daly, supposedly the first victim of the Berserk curse. In January 1981, this 19-year-old kid allegedly dropped dead after scoring 16,660 points on the game. The presence of 666 in his score did not help to quell the rumors around his sudden and tragic demise. However, a deeper investigation revealed this story may be fabricated. No records exist of a Jeff Daly dying while playing Berserk during this period. But then came a verified death. On April 3, 1982, 18-year-old Peter Bukowski entered Friar Tuck's game room in Calumet City, Illinois. Within 15 minutes, he managed to get his initials on the Berserk high scoreboard twice. Moments after turning away from the machine, he collapsed and died from a heart attack. The autopsy revealed scar tissue on his heart, indicating a pre-existing condition. The coincidence might have faded if not for a third incident at the same arcade. In 1988, 17-year-old Edward Clark Jr. was stabbed to death by another teen after an argument over quarters left on the Berserk cabinet. Just to add to all this eerie mythology, Calumet City featured two water towers painted with smiley faces that bore an uncanny resemblance to Evil Otto. The towers had been dubbed Mr. and Mrs. Smiley Face in 1973, 7 years before Berserk's release. The combination of these deaths, the game's sinister speech, and the ominous smiling antagonist transformed one arcade cabinet into the stuff of video game nightmares. No wonder the game hasn't been seen since. If you want to hit start on another disturbing gaming video, why not check out this video about the most disturbing video games?